Hello and welcome to The Analyst by Vajiram and Ravi, your daily guide to decoding the current affairs the smart way for UPSC examinations. It's December 20th, 2025 and today's edition brings two important analysis articles for upcoming mains. First, the Supreme Court ruling on child trafficking. We will be examining legal gaps, enforcement challenges and the role of institutions in protecting vulnerable children. Second, we have achieved 100% plus productivity in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha recently. What these figures really indicate and how parliamentary functioning should be assessed will be our main moot points. Finally, in our simplified sections, we will be covering key updates which are very crucial for the upcoming prelims 2026 examination. So, let's begin. In 2010, a minor was raped inside a Bengaluru apartment. And this incident went for months. Finally, the police rescued her. And at the end of the day, the Supreme Court yesterday released a judgment on the case which has severe implications on the entire topic of child trafficking in the country, which concerns our GS1 when it comes to societal issues, women and child development, and obviously we are talking about poverty and development issues too, because child trafficking is intricately linked with poverty in the country. We are also going to look into the perspectives of GS2 where we have various welfare schemes for the vulnerable sections of the population, which we will be clearly looking at the children needs too. And at the end of the day, we cannot ignore the core ethical violations which take place due to this practice. So we will be also taking into consideration the paper 4 of such topic. So this is where we should be starting our article. Firstly, discussing about the very basics of child trafficking in India. When it comes to defining child trafficking, which is extremely important for your mains examination, because the better introductions you give, the more marks your examiner will be awarding you, because introductions serve as the ID card to your answer, just like the preamble that is serving as an ID card to our constitution of our country. So when we talk about a perfect definition, child trafficking involves taking or moving children for exploitation, like forcing them into labor, begging, sexual abuse or illegal adoption. Now this is what we have to understand at the core of child trafficking. When we look at the global trafficking scenario, every year human traffickers make around $150 billion of profit, and between these human traffickers, 71% of them are women and little girls. And here there are more than 21 million victims worldwide where they face sexual exploitation, majority of them. We also get so many instances of labor exploitation when it comes to forced labor. In 2022, Qatar World Cup of FIFA, we also have seen how the kafala system also came into highlight. In the comment section, can anyone let me know what we mean by the kafala system and how this is linked indirectly to human trafficking too. And at the end of the day, we also have various instances of organ trafficking and various other illegal activities, which was also highlighted in a recent show known as Squid Games on Netflix. So this is exactly what we have to concern with. This is a serious menace. Why it happens? If you can look at this figure from around 2016 to the present times, this is mainly where we take into consideration sexual exploitation, domestic servants, petty crimes, begging, removal of organs, just the things that we have discussed right now. And this leads to around 8 human beings being trafficked every single day according to the NCRB data of 2022. So this is a serious menace in the country. And there are various kind of patterns that we can see in this entire menace. Firstly, when we talk about various forms of trafficking, we have firstly the newborn seals. This means that in states like Delhi and Maharashtra, we have huge instances of newborn children being forcibly snatched from their parents and sold off in such illegal human trafficking markets, often maybe that can be within the country, and majority of the children who are newborn are sent via borders of Nepal and Bangladesh to various other countries. So this is a serious instance of such trade. Next, when we talk about the forced labor, majority of the children who are abducted, they are actually involved in some labor activities without any pay, without any recognition, totally deprived and detached from their past lives and their parents in various factories, in various brick kilns. This means that such children are deprived of education, health, all those developmental parameters which traps them later in a vicious cycle of poverty. Next, perhaps the most serious one, which are seen most prominently in West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, it is where the girls are forced into prostitution. These newborn kids, this little girl child, they are abducted and they are forced into various prostitution circles, red light areas, and all those aspects where you see that tiny children and they are operating in such huge networks wherein there are particular gangs, there are particular people, even sometimes you will find various politicians running indirectly such cartels. So this is where we find that this is also one of the major reasons. And there are all across the country several networks of begging rings. These are the begging networks or the networks which recruit, right, for the matter of the fact, various children and they force them to beg in various cities, in various villages, in various towns of our country. These children who beg on the street, they are also diverted into various other illegal professions such as chain snatching, thievery, goons, various other criminal activities and so on. So this is what we have to understand, that trafficking in the country, if you can see, these are the various hot spots in the country. The states which are marked in red, if you can see, these are the main hotspots in the country. According to even latest data, UP and Bihar, right, which were earlier not that of a concern when it came to child trafficking, they are also seeing huge instances of child being trafficked. And if you can give such maps in your answers along with such points which I am telling, you will be getting those extra marks in mains examination. And when we were talking about the legal provisions, this is what we are talking about. We have plethora of legal initiatives to save our children. Mainly when I start with our constitutional framework, Article 23, Subclass 1, Subclass 2 specifically tells you that traffic in human beings and beggar and other similar forms of forced labor are prohibited. This is a constitutional right of our children and it is punishable accordance with law. Also, when we are talking about some legal provisions, we have the Juvenile Justice Act of 2015, a relatively new act, which actually talks about rehabilitation of such children who are found being trafficked or who are actually facing these kind of issues at their homes. So, with reference to various abused children, we have such a law to protect them. Next, we have plethora of stringent provisions for our children. Firstly, we have the POCSO Act of 2012, which prevents any kind of sexual exploitation of children, and this is having various penal provisions according to the crime and offence. Next, we have the Immoral Traffic Prevention Act of 1956, which is enforced directly with reference to Article 23, Subclass 1. Just because we have a fundamental right, we have to have a legal act for that. This act is actually trying to prevent the trafficking of children directly. Also, we have a statutory National Commission for Protection of Children Rights, and this is where the commission members look into such matters, they investigate, they try to give various recommendations to the government of India with reference to the safeguards that are needed for the children in our country. Next, we also have the Child and Adolescent Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act of 1986, which bans child labor under the age of 14 years with some exceptions, particularly to the children who are employed in the film industries and so on. We also have various regulations for hazardous industries between the age of 14 to 18 years. Next, we also have the National Child Labor Project, which is trying to protect the children right at the district level. So, with reference to the various policies and the regulations that the government of India has, so this is trying to target those children who have been trafficked, giving them education, later on awarding them proper skills so that they can become employable. And pursuant to this particular national policy, we have the Pencil portal in our country, which is a digital portal which tries to track the implementation of the National Child Labor Project. And here, with reference to the various child level laws and the various other institutions, this is how this online digital portal is taken care of. On a global level, India is also a part of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. Also, we are a part of the Hague Convention on Child Protection and Adoption 1993. Now, all these points that we are discussing about, these are very crucial, important information for your prelims examination. On the other hand, when it comes to any question related to children and their rights and the child trafficking issue, these issues must be mentioned in your answers. Next, we finally are discussing this article. Why? Because remember the story which I told in the beginning of my discussion? That is exactly what happened in Bangalore, right? That child was raped in a rented apartment for several months. After that, police rescued her and that case went on for several years. In 2025, as of 19th December, the Supreme Court gave a judgment. Now, Supreme Court observed a very, very peculiar trend that in all the prosecutions related to children in our country, often the legal system do not recognize the children's rights in a very humanitarian way. For example, imagine that this is a child victim of sexual exploitation, human trafficking, abuse over several months and maybe possibly even years. So when the child, for example, if you can imagine a courtroom, when the child is brought in front of a court, there are various lawyers, right? Lawyers who will be taking her side. Most importantly, lawyers which the criminals have appointed, who the organized criminals, right, they have appointed. And those lawyers are actually experts. Now that lawyer will be trying to target the child in a very derogative way. They will be asking such questions as if, that lawyer is delivering death via such questions, via such trial. So, the lawyer can ask various questions such as, do you remember the color of the door in which you were kept as a captive? Or, why did not you scream so that your neighbors could have heard you? So, these are all such stupid questions which are actually put up by the opponent lawyer, right? And here, such victims, they get scared and they sometimes cannot take various stands, various opinions. They sometimes cannot even tell the truth because they are so petrified. And that is why the Supreme Court observed that such cases are everywhere, right? Going on in the high courts of our country, in the lower courts of our country. And this is where the Supreme Court is recognizing that there needs to be compassion in our judicial system. Here, the focus as of now is on minor inconsistencies or absence of various resistance with reference to the child. But the Supreme Court has observed that this system cannot go on because the children, they cannot express themselves freely because they have faced years of abuse over a period of time. And it is the state as of now, or say here, the courts as of now, who should be taking cognizance of the matter. So the Supreme Court has delivered some very crucial important points. The earlier or traditional cases which are going on according to the various child trafficking cases, right? When it comes to the victim status, now the victim or the trafficked child sometimes are viewed as accomplices or the kind of person who kind of goes along with the crime and commits the crime. So such lawyers penned that the children actually went ahead with the crime with their own consent and permission, which is completely wrong. The children cannot express their own opinions properly because of such aspects, because they are injured mentally, physically, everywhere. So this is what the Supreme Court has right now instructed, that all of the high courts, all of the lower courts, even the lawyers must be treating the child as an injured witness. So it needs protection. Also, when we talk about testimony, now there are so much of pressure on the child to give evidence. So how will a child give such evidence with reference to the child trafficking? So here the Supreme Court told that even if the child herself or himself tells that, okay, I face this abuse, now the lawyers and later the court, they must be accepting it as evidence. Also with reference to small inconsistencies, which is the color of the door or why you did not scream, such things will not be accepted. Right? Minor inconsistencies in the child's statement to the court which should be ignored because we need to give them support. Also, with reference to the various resistance that the children should have done while they are being trafficked. Just imagine the comedy here. The child is being trafficked and the courts expect that the child should be protesting, being a 5-year-old, being a 6-year-old child, right? Now the Supreme Court told that failure to protest does not imply consent. And at the end of the day, the courtroom experience must be made much more better, right? Often, as you have understood as of now, the courtroom is aggressive against the child. So that must be kind of avoided, because this secondary victimization, that means once they were already victimized in front of the human traffickers, then again you are saying that in the courtroom such lawyers are tormenting the child. This should be avoided. In a separate case in 2025, right, the Pinky versus the state of Uttar Pradesh delivered a huge judgment which will be serving as your way forward in your mains answers in this particular thing. Firstly, the Supreme Court told that such speedy trials, right, should be ensured, with reference to that all high courts must be ensuring that the child trafficking cases should be finished within 6 months, and such reports should be monitored progressively with reference to some digital portal on the court's website. Also, with reference to the conviction rates of the organized criminals in child trafficking, Supreme Court pointed out that these traffickers get away because they have huge money with themselves, because they are human traffickers. They traffic around 8 children per day, and considerably they make a huge amount of money, as we have also seen in the first slide, that the child trafficking economy is quite big. That illegal economy actually gives them bail, and they also feed various witnesses, right? They bribe the witnesses, they turn hostile. There are so many movies in Bollywood, as we have also seen in recent times, which show exactly this scenario. In the comment section, you can let me one movie name. Also, there are various delays with reference to the Tariq pe Tariq and all those things which take place due to delays in our judicial system. Also, the reporting of such cases are not done in a regular manner, right? Here, if a child is missing in our country, until and unless you do not register a case, that child will not be missing in official records. But according to this order, you have to treat a child as missing under the assumption of being trafficked or abduction unless proven otherwise. Also, all of these cases should be reported by the police and anti-human trafficking units, which must be set up if the state governments do not have such. Also, with reference to the child protection system, which is an overall system which we have to engineer as of now, we have to set up anti-human trafficking bureaus in each state. Each district should have child welfare committees. Also, various amounts of hazardous industries should be regulated with reference to the forced child labor aspect. And also, we should be creating child-friendly courts where the prosecutors, the advocates, the lawyers, the judges, the support system should be there. And with reference to other support measures, we should be trying to give various counseling. Proper counseling via various psychologists, psychiatrists are sometimes not given at the courts. Also, we should be involving the community in local policing. If you know our local areas, stay vigilant. If we stay vigilant in our local areas, we will be knowing each and every child of our households. So that we should be vigilant enough to see if one child is missing, or if some child is facing some psychological issues, or say any kind of issues. It is on us. And at the end of the day, we need better coordination with the various civil society organizations, the non-government organizations for rescue, rehabilitation and various other measures. So let us take the spirit forward. Let us write a question which references the topics that we have just discussed. And in the question, you can also give this kind of steps which are involved in child trafficking to get those extra marks. Now we'll be moving on to the next one. Guys, finally our parliament has wrapped up. Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha reported 100% plus productivity. We also will be looking at the various implications of the same from the perspective of means, where our legislatures and our parliament at the state and the central respectively levels, with reference to their structure, functioning and conduct of business, everything is important for our examination, right? And this is where let us discuss the topic wherein the parliament productivity has been reported for more than 100%. We'll be looking into what this exactly means. But before that, prelims is nearby, guys, right? We have less than 5 months right now for the prelims examination, and that is why let us actually look into the various terms which are given in this article, which is particularly important for your prelims. For example, firstly, adjournment sine die. Adjournment sine die generally means that you are terminating a sitting of parliament for an indefinite period, and it is done by the presiding officer. And this is what has happened as of now. The winter session has been adjourned sine die, and here the next step would be the prorogation. For your reference guys, for your revision too, it is done by formally the president of our country, and this will be taking place just from a few days from now. Right now, when we talk about practice, prelims, these are all correlated. So I have been giving you various PYQs over my sessions. This is 2024 and 2004, such a coincidence, right? After 20 years, you see such question repeating almost with references similar themes. You let me know in the comments below what is the answer. Now, when we talk about the parliament wrapping up, there is a very important terms which goes into the policy circles after such parliament being wrapped up. This is known as the parliament productivity. Now here we have to remember our Baba Saheb Ambedkar's words of wisdom. He told that law and order are the medicine of the body politic, and when the body politic gets sick, medicine must be administered. This means that, guys, when we talk about the parliament of our country, here we have our members of parliament who have been chosen by us via free and fair democratic elections. Because we do not have the time to legislate on the bills, we do not have the time to go to the parliament every session because we have our own lives, we have our own jobs, we have our own UPSC preparation. So that is why we have sent our MPs to the parliament. What they do? They should be trying to discuss the various laws that should be brought up in the country, such as the new age laws with reference to the data protection, AI. So the parliamentarians have a lot to do with reference to new challenges which are coming up. With reference to the social, technological, economic, polity, all kind of challenges, the parliamentarians have to go to the parliament, they have to debate. If needed, they have to come with bills. They have to also maybe refer the bills to some committees for expert guidance. They have to debate on some internal matters. They have to also understand that the role of the opposition is important. So the opposition also has to kind of bring us some debates in the parliament. So this is entire where we have to understand concerns the health of a democracy. So this is where our parliament productivity comes into picture. It means that your functioning time and your scheduled time is delivering your efficiency, which means that on a day-to-day basis, the parliament has various tools and mechanisms wherein the executive, which is consisting of the council of ministers, they are held accountable by the parliament with reference to the tools such as question hour, 0 hour, various motions, parliamentary committees, debates and discussions, and even the passing of the annual budget and the regular CAG reports with reference to the various functioning of the ministries. So all of these take place in the parliament, or rather should take place in the parliament, which is, not the complete picture we are getting as of now. This means that many of such instruments such as question hour or 0 hour, which are very important hours for debating on national issues, these do not take place frequently with reference to the various motions, censure or various other aspects. These are sometimes not brought in effectively. Various laws and bills which we actually try to devise should be referred to the parliamentary committees for expert recommendation. These are also sometimes not done because bills are passed hastily without much discussion. And all of these trends, if you can understand one thing, according to various constitutional experts, generally take place at a time when we have a majority or when a political alliance has a majority in the house. This means that whatever the laws and the regulations should be there or should be passed in the parliament, they are actually passed with reference to least hindrance or least resistance. This affects the parliamentary functioning here, and this is where a 2017 question is also asking you to answer which of the following tools makes the parliament effectively exercise control over the council of ministers. So this means that even the prelims ask questions with reference to parliamentary functioning. So this is where let us actually understand what took place in the latest one. Now in this winter session of our parliament here, 8 bills were passed during the sessions, right? Various debates, mainly controversial debates, especially on Vande Mataram, on the various aspects of the new bill with reference to Manrega, or the various laws such as the Money-Pool Goods and Services Tax, Central Excise Amendment Bill, the Health Security, National Security Cess, and the Sustainable Harnessing and Advancement of Nuclear Energy for Transforming India, or the Shanti Bill, which was also discussed in the previous sessions. Everything was discussed, right? And here, there is an unusual pattern as of now, that for the first time in the recent few parliamentary sessions, we have seen that the parliamentary productivity is crossing more than 100%. That means that in Lok Sabha we have had 111% of productivity, in Rajya Sabha we have had 121% of productivity. That means for around 15 sittings, the Lok Sabha functioned very well. They did not skip any sittings. Also, the Rajya Sabha sat for around 192 hours, which is quite huge, right? And also, if you can understand, if there is a mandate for a particular time period of our sittings, in the comment section you let me know what is that particular mandate, because it was also covered in the Analyst previously. Now, if for example the Lok Sabha is to operate for X number of days, so if I fulfill my X number of days, that means I have achieved 100% productivity. But how this figure is telling that there is 111%, 121%? Because it is depending on the scheduled hours, which is your X hours, versus the actual hours. Because it has been seen that Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha both have been working overtime. That is, they sometimes go into the middle of the night also to debate and to pass the various bills. That means they are actually overproductive. Correct? So this means that this is a good thing. Also, there have been some instances of unparliamentarian behavior, specifically with reference to the Vajiram Bill 2025. This is particularly concerning the recent amendments we are doing to the Manrega Act. As this also has been covered, I won't be going into too much of specifics, but this was an explosive matter in the parliament. Why? Firstly, the opposition alleged that the government of the day is maligning Mahatma Gandhi's image. Also, it is trying to say that the share of costs which earlier the central government had to bear, that has been shifted also to the state governments right now. This means that the state government will have to spend more of the amount, and at the end of the day, this has also triggered various protests in the parliament itself, wherein various parliamentarians were seen throwing the bill and tearing it in front of the speaker. So this is where we have to understand the recent patterns and causes. While we were actually quite productive, more than 100%, we sat and discussed, we debated, we passed bills, but there are some issues, guys. Firstly, when we talk about the 0-hour sessions, the debates, the important quality of debates which should take place in a democratic country like India, we are tearing pages, we are protesting in front of the speaker in an unparliamentarian way. Here, both the ruling parties and the opposition parties are to blame for these kind of non-maintenance of the decorum. Also, when we talk about the 0-hour notices per day, this has increased by 31%. While this is a good thing that more debate has taken place in the latest one, but such behaviors which are also prohibited according to the rules of your Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, that is, the presiding officer can direct a member to withdraw immediately with reference to any grossly disorderly conduct. Despite that, such incidents are seen here. With reference to even the Vande Mataram debate, the opposition parties and the ruling parties were treating various amounts of negativities. Also, if you can see the productivity of the 17th Lok Sabha, right, while the latest one has gone up, but it has kind of stayed quite lower, right? Also, when we can look into the various aspects of the previous session, that was the monsoon session, right? That was also where we have seen the question hour was underperforming. Bills passed with little or no discussion. If you can look into the time taken to pass the bills in the 15th, 16th and 17th, right? We see that 35% of the bills were passed within 1 hour. You can understand that such bills can be related with our national security, that bills can be related to our daily livelihoods of our MSME sectors, for example. Those things are passed within 1 hour. without much discussions. So you can understand the pattern. Also, there are some other patterns, guys. When we talk about the private members, you know that these are the members who are non-ministers. You know, the ministers are actually interested, they are expected to bring in various bills according to their various ministries, according to national security and national welfare parameters. With reference to this Manrega, revised bill which is coming up, or say the bill with reference to the nuclear energy in our country, these are where the government of India is interested with the duties. But there are private members too, who are non-ministers. They can also bring up bills. And the more number of bills they bring in, the more democratic health of our parliament is, because it is where the individual parliamentarians are actually very much enthusiastic to bring in bills on national issues. But if you see, in the recent times, that has gone down. That has gone down in recent times. Right? Even when we talk about the resolutions, they have gone down by the private members. Next, the post of Deputy Speaker is lying vacant till 2019. In the comment section, you let me know if the post is constitutional or not. Also, the various bills which are referred to the committees are actually going down over the years. From around 15th Lok Sabha, if you can understand, we have had 71 bills referred to the committees for expert recommendations. Now, whenever we pass any bills, we need a detailed scrutiny. And these are the committees which help them. But we are passing less of bills to the committees. This means that most of our laws which are actually becoming national legislations, they are passed without much scrutiny. And this is why I have curated 3 approaches. Firstly, some short-term solutions, medium-term solutions, and some long-term solutions for this exact decline in parliament productivity. Firstly, we have to make our question hour and the 0 hours discussion mandatory, right? With reference to the Delhi schedule, we have to make it mandatory so that national issues are discussed. Also, various issues which are not too much of important or, less time sensitive issues, they can be shifted to the later half of the week. Also, when we talk about a particular accountability mechanism, this can be digitized using a daily functioning time dashboard. And here we can also have the PRS, which is a legislative think tank, who can actually have such a device on their websites. Thirdly, guys, there should be a pre-session meeting between the political party leaders in a closed room. They should be sitting for the national interest and we should be discussing that, okay, these are the topics we will not be discussing in the beginning. Let us pass the bills, let us talk on the bills, let us debate, let us refer to the committees, then all the issues we will be starting to take up. Next, when we go to the medium-term solutions, we need mandatory pre-publication and minimum notice for important bills. So, say for example, a bill with reference to national security. Let us pass it with an extended duration because it needs a more amount of discussion on privacy issues, on various borders. So, it needs some prolonged debate. With reference to such, we can have some amount of timeline, say around 20 days for such bills. Right? Or also we can classify some bills as important bills and we can have customized timeline for them. Also, with reference to departmental or select committees, we should be increasing the number right now, guys, because 13 bills are too less, right, according to the latest data that I've shown you. Also, with reference to the hours for debate, right, we need to give a minimum number of hours for the same, right, before we actually vote on a major bill, such as the Manrega bill, as we have seen right now. They need more debate because it is causing a lot of issues. Even some people are telling that it can be like the farm bills which were passed with least amount of discussions and later they had to repeal, the government had to repeal because of the farmer protests. Maybe this can happen again, right? Also, we have to strengthen the secretariat capacity and also give more tools, give more funds to the parliamentarians, mainly the private members, so that they can also bring up their own bills. So it will take some time by giving them more funds, investing in better technologies. Also, at the end of the day, we have to imbibe a culture of parliamentarianism in the country. Firstly, we have to try to restore various conventions such as the deputy speaker. Mainly, guys, the deputy speaker belong to the opposition party, right? So we can bring in to have a better parliamentarian culture. Also, with reference to the latest index which is being proposed for the state legislatures, we can also bring the same for our parliament too. I discussed this in one of the last analyst discussions too, with reference to the need for national legislative index, which is where we are trying to grade our various assemblies. The same parameters, for example, productivity, rigor, efficiency, innovation, participation, we can bring individually for Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Also, we have to encourage the cross-party norms with reference to the various members, the behavior, and say such tiering of bills and such things should be dealt at the party level with reference to some maybe legal provisions wherein maybe the Election Commission of India can also get involved with reference to such issues. And lastly, we have to use digital tools for prioritization and e-consultation with reference to the parliamentarianism and say the culture, say even training modules for the new MPs. This is what we have to do to actually ensure that our parliament functions and our welfare state prevails. So again, we have a question. Now we'll be moving on to the simplified section. Guys, we have a report from an NGO regarding the performance of the POCSO court. So we will be looking at it from the perspective of prelims and mains examination, where we have the topics related to children, judiciary, and various legal mechanisms for the vulnerable sections of the population. In the first article, we discussed actually about the issue of child trafficking. Here we have actually taken up the POCSO Act because it is in the news, and we have to deliberate on the very basic things for a prelims examination, which can be important, guys. Firstly, the Act is classifying people as children below the age of 18 years, and mainly two types of sexual abuse has been identified in the Act, which has been strictly penalized. Firstly, penetrative sexual assault, any form of sexual penetration such as rape, and non-penetrative assault such as touching private parts, making child touch someone else, something like that. So this is where the two major crimes and such thing has been classified. Also, with reference to the sexual harassment term, it has been defined for children, which means specifically stalking, showing pornography, making child sexual remarks. All of these will be classified and a person can be penalized with reference to such offense. Also, child pornography, distribution, recording, even possessing the same, even if you're not sharing the same, you will be penalized. Finally, some amounts of sexual activities against children, mainly committed by some family members, teachers, police officers, or even someone in authority, will be treated as an aggravated sexual assault because those people are actually abusing their position in society or in authority. Next, when we discuss other features, mainly when we talk about the safeguards here, child-friendly investigation must be done because here the law is trying to transform the police into protectors, because the children are also afraid of police. After facing such abuse with reference to sexual nature, the children do not also view the police in a right manner. So the police need to be trained on emotional levels to deal with children in such cases, where fast track course also has been envisaged. Police investigation must be completed within 2 months, trial must be completed within 6 months, so around the entire process needs to be completed within 1 year. Also, no direct confrontation between victim and accused should take place, so that the police must be separating these two peoples, these two stakeholders, and it is the onus on the accused to prove that they are innocent. Also, mandatory reporting of the same should be done with reference to the judiciary. Also, the punishment under the POCSO Act can actually vary from 10 years to even life imprisonment. In cases of aggravated sexual assault, it can take place even 20 years to death penalty. This was brought in via 2019 amendment of this Act. Also, the non-penetrative assault can lead to a person to around 3 to 5 years in jail, and in child pornography case, around 5 years of imprisonment along with fines. Also here, when we look at the recent data here, if you can see here, right now more of the fast track cases of the POCSO Act, they are actually increasing in the disposal cases. This is actually according to the report released by the India Child Protection. The report's name is Pendency to Protection, Achieving the Tipping Point to Justice. Here, some good news is coming up that 109% of the POCSO cases have been disposed of. The top performer has been the state of Chhattisgarh. Even the runners are Delhi and Orissa, but here we have the states of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar which are lagging up. Now here, guys, you see that in Delhi, for example, most of the pending cases are 6 to 10 years old. This means that such cases are actually quite old. But here, let us think like an officer, guys. For example, we are seeing that the cases which are being disposed are at 109%. This means that we are dealing with 100% cases. What about the extra 9%? This means we are actually taking up these old cases and solving up. We are actually disposing of the various delays that we were actually seeing in the judiciary, right? But here we have seen that there are some issues and gaps also, correct? For example, see the cases which actually entered the system several years ago, right, which are actually getting delayed, they are not seeing progress because of some reasons. Firstly, we have a romantic angle here. We have actually heard about child romance, teen romance, right, cases wherein children below the age of 18 years, they fall in love with each other and their parents have some issues with reference to this. So the parents, if they want to take revenge of some romantic affairs such as this, they actually file case against the boys, which actually takes the age of consent into matter, because according to Indian laws we have 18 years which is the age of consent in our country, and this is according to the POCSO Act also. So the parents sometimes prove that the boy is older than 18 years, they had some sexual affairs, and in this case such cases go on. Also, high disposal rate sometimes is not equal to justice, because the witnesses are sometimes bought, sometimes bribed, right? And this is where the actual justice, the ground level justice sometimes do not take place. Also, if you look at the interstate disparity, Bihar and UP, they are struggling with reference to various fluctuating conviction rates and also the high pendency of cases in such manners. Also, if you can see some recent cases such as this actually highlight that this is a national issue which must be dealt at the earliest. Now we'll be moving on to the next one. We are going to discuss a very interesting topic here, guys. We are talking about the recent changes which can take place in the future week itself, you can see, due to an increase in the interest rate by the Bank of Japan, which is their own central bank. We often hear that our own RBI has increased the repo rates. Let us actually understand how Bank of Japan's action can influence us, because such economic concepts such as carry trade, exchange rate are important for prelims. Also, the policies of other developed countries on India's interests, part of GS2, and in GS3 we have to talk about the external sector. What happened, guys, recently? The Bank of Japan has increased the interest rates. Earlier, you know, Japan actually faced near zero interest rates, as you can see here, right? So this means that since the mid-90s onwards, Japan actually maintained interest rates close to 0%. So this gives rise to a very, very clever activity by investors. What they do? They go to Japan. You know, in Japan, you see the interest rate is almost 0%. So think that you are an investor. You are getting loans in Japan at 0%. So what you will do? You will pick up, for example, say 100 crores of loans from Japan at zero interest rate. So what you do? You take that money, you come to India. You come to India and you invest in Indian FD, or you invest in Indian stock market, or you invest elsewhere, wherever you want to do. And here, obviously, you are getting say around 8% or 10% of returns on your investments. Say maybe the loan that you have taken was for 1 year and you have made this profit within 6 months. So what do? You take out your profit from our country, right? And you pay back the loan principal back to Japan and a little bit of marginal interest rate. This means that you are getting very cheap loans at almost 1% or 0%, 0.5%, 0.7% from Japan. You are using these cheap rates from Japan. You are taking up more loans from Japan. You are using these loans coming into India and investing. And when you are getting the profit, you are actually taking the profit in your own pockets, and later on, after 1 year, you're actually returning back the principal. So actually you are making money out of the money of the Japan bank, right? So this is where this concept becomes very important for your prelims, and this is exactly what is known as currency carry trade. And let me tell you guys, there are lots and lots of investors who do exactly this thing, right? They actually go to Japan, they take loans, they invest that money in the stock markets worldwide. And if for that matter, if you understand, guys, now the Bank of Japan is increasing the interest rate, for example, to 1%. So obviously you will understand that you will take less loans now because you have to pay higher interest, because your net profit or actual profit will decline. Because earlier you were not exactly paying interest rate. Right now you're actually paying something. So you will not go to Japan, maybe you will go to other countries, or you will not take this loan at all, because this activity will be actually not be good for your overall investment. So this is exactly what is happening right now. The Bank of Japan actually has been raising interest rates because inflation is returning to Japan after years of deflation. In Japan, the prices were not increasing by too much, but in recent times, due to various structural issues of Japan and various other international issues, we see that the inflation is going up. The Japanese yen is actually depreciating. It is weakening. It is losing its value, and that is why, the various political parties in Japan, they has been protesting that the normal Japanese people are facing inflationary pressures, right? And also the yen is depreciating. So that is why, to appreciate the yen, the Central Bank of Japan has increased the interest rate. Because guys, whenever you increase the interest rates, foreign investors from rest of the world will come into your market. They will be demanding more of your yen, and more yen demand will be appreciating your currency. This is the simple logic that the central bank has thought in Japan. But this can have severe implications for India, because when the yen gets stronger because of higher interest rates, right? Indian investors, US investors, European investors will be selling all their stocks, all their assets, all things that they had once borrowed with Japanese money, because since the interest rates were near 0%. Right? And they have to right now sell off their assets to buy back yen at appreciated currencies, right? And then they have to repay the loans. Firstly, higher interest rates. Then you have higher yen also, which has appreciated. So you have two issues, guys. So these two issues will be leading to various investors selling off their assets in the global market. This means that the global liquidity, or the global money, or say the easy money which is available in form of loans, will be going down, because since Japan has increased the interest rate, this will be going down. And also, if you see, Japanese FPIs own around 2.0 lakh crore in India as of the last year. This means if they try to sell off this amount in India, it will create a depreciation of our rupees, because the FIIs will be selling off Indian assets, will be dumping Indian rupee in the market, and will be going away to Japan to pay back the loans. Also, right now, if you can see, the stock markets are actually on high alert, mainly on two things: that the cost of borrowing has increased and the yen has strengthened. These are the two reasons. So this was all for this topic. We'll be now moving on to the next one. Guys, the RBI board has approved a risk-based deposit insurance in the country. We are going to look at it from the perspective of prelims and GS2 and 3. Firstly, when we talk about deposit insurance, guys, we all have our money in deposits of our bank accounts. If, for example, for any reason, that bank has shut down, that bank's management has become corrupt, or some global issues are going on, due to that bank has been affected, what will happen to your deposits? Right? It is a matter of concern, and that is why the RBI, being our central bank, it is our regulator of the entire banking system in our country. It has a specific subsidiary that is known as the Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation. In India, guys, the RBI has 4 wholly owned subsidiaries of itself, right? One of them is the Deposit Insurance. It is a statutory corporation, as you can understand, backed by the 1961 law. It was operationalized in 1962. The main purpose is to protect people's deposit. The present limit is 5 lakh per person per bank account. This means that in one bank, for example SBI, if you have one bank account, you will have 5 lakh rupees insurance. But in the same SBI, if you have another account, that 5 lakh will be split into 2.5 into 2.5. But if you have, for example, the same person, you have one account in SBI, one you have as HDFC. In this case, you will get separately 5 lakh and 5 lakh each in SBI and HDFC Bank. So this is how this system is working. Mainly here, the banks will be paying the fees for the premium. So you, the customer, has not to pay anything. As of now, we are following one size fits all policy. That means all the banks in our country, they have to give around 12 paisa per 100 rupees of deposit. Correct? So this means that we are actually implementing the same rule on the commercial bank, RRB, cooperative banks, foreign banks, everyone uniformly. But this is not the case, guys, because the RBI is thinking of a risk based deposit insurance, because guys, this concept of deposit insurance is actually taken into consideration because the banking system can face various risks in the future. That is why let us insure the various deposits of the people, so that in any case, if such bank fails, the deposit insurance corporation can actually pay out the money to the banks, finally to the depositors. So this was actually the old system as of now, which is still ongoing, because the RBI as of now has approved it will come into the picture from the next financial year. So as of now, the current system, which is the old system as we can say, because the new system will be coming into force, this system is uniform for all, right? And if you can see here, the deposit premium which the banks are paying 12 paisa per 100 rupees of deposits, it has accounted to around 26,000 crores, right? And the fund size has went on to around 2.28 lakh crore. Also, if you can see, the same was not fixed earlier. The deposit premium rate actually changed over from 1962 from around 5 paisa to 10 to 12 paisa as of now, correct? And as of now, if you can understand that this risk profile, the new system that we are trying to transition to, here the premium will be variable. It will not be same for everyone, right? And most possibly 12 paisa will be the maximum limit. It can also go down to 5 paisa also, mainly for banks which are functioning quite well to promote more discipline in the markets. Now let us understand why the RBI is thinking about this. Firstly, if you can see, guys, the insured deposit ratio, the IDR, simply the actually amount of deposit insurance in the country is going down to around 5-year low of 41%, right? And this is where we have to understand that such change, which we actually are going to risk-based system, this change is due to various factors as we can see here. Firstly, the commercial banks are much more safer with reference to deposits because they actually are very large and they maintain proper governance standards of the banks. But the cooperative banks in the recent times, as we have seen, they are the ones which have failed most. They are the ones which have actually struggled with giving deposits to the people in times of conflicts. So this is why maybe in the future we will see more premium for the cooperative banks. Second factor is due to declining coverage ratio, as we have seen just now. This means that, guys, in India, the people are keeping more deposits in their bank accounts. That means they are keeping 10 lakh, 20 lakh, 50 lakh in their bank accounts, but the deposit insurance is only for 5 lakh. This means that commensurate to amount of deposits which are taking place in the bank accounts, the insured part is actually quite marginal, quite low. That is why the coverage ratio is declining, and that is why maybe we also need to increase the coverage ratio, correct? Also, the coverage by bank type here, as we see, mostly the RRBs, then followed by the cooperative bank, then followed by the public sector banks, and then we have the private sector banks. This is how we see that mostly in our country, this is a scale of coverage of the same, which is not uniform across all types of banks. That is why we need to have risk-based insurance so that we can have better insurance of deposits for the banks which are much more riskier. Also, we have to catch up with the global scale because globally the ratio is at around 51% as of 2020. So we have to catch up with the global parameters too to have better insurance with reference to deposits in the country. So now guys, let us solve two PYQs from 2013 and 20 which are not exactly related to deposit insurance but important for your economics revision. Guys, let me know the answer in the comments below. The Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center under the Department of Space has come up with a new idea to link and establish space labs at various educational institutions in the country. Let us look from the perspective of prelims and mains papers. Firstly, the program name is Antariksh Prayogshala, wherein this select educational institutions across the country. This means that we have to shift from the theory part, that is from the books, from merely studying satellites on our books, to directly making and manufacturing the same at our various industries. So the main goal here is to create various space labs with the collaboration of universities and colleges in India and have training on space technology. There will be proper zonal division which will be made in India, and each zone will be having one space center wherein academics, industrialists and ISRO will be collaborating to set up this architecture. And open access will be there because even the non-government enterprises such as the startups can be a part of such organization, of such space labs. So this is where brings me to the difference between Antariksh, NSIL and InSpace. Very important for your parents, guys, to remember this, because a lot of students have confusion remembering the main responsibilities. To remember this, keep it very simple. We have Antariksh. Let us call this as a foreign salesman, because with reference to ISRO's external missions and external amounts of collaboration which ISRO does with NASA, ESA, with other missions abroad, the Antariksh is the main person to deal with. Set up in 1992, it is a PSU and it brings marketing services to the international clients. So we are trying to exploit ISRO's services on a commercial level. Now, when we come to New Space India Limited, which is known as factory manager, we are trying to commercialize right now in our own domestic industry. We are trying to give the various amounts of technologies to the private sector as of now, so that they can make their own rockets and satellites, and it will be also looking into the various launchers and technological transfer to the private sector. Now, the latest one is InSpace. This is directly under the Department of Space. Now, it is actually an autonomous regulator and promoter of what? Of the projects that the non-government enterprises will be taking up. So, in other instance, it is mainly trying to privatize the space launches, bringing the space ecosystem to the startups in the country. So, it is trying to act as a single window to use the ISRO's facilities mainly by the startups of our country. Now, here 7 institutions will be chosen, and InSpace will be giving the financial support of this Antariksh Prayogshala. So 75% of the funding will be coming from InSpace, rest will be contributed by the institute itself, with a maximum capping of 5 crore per institution that will be given by the InSpace. Now, right now, what is the main significance of this kind of initiative? If you're writing some mains answers and you're writing challenges in the Indian space sector, so to give solutions, give these as solution points. Firstly, we are trying to fix the unemployability issue in the space sector. In our country, we have our Indian graduates exposed to the space grade hardware or the various testing satellites and all those things, right? These are the various skills that our graduates in the space sector gets. But when it comes to actual application of the same in industries or in private sector, the space private sector in the country is still growing. It is not yet developed. So to actually bring the people to employment, this is a very good initiative. Also, for the non-government enterprises, we should be having low entry barriers, because they are actually present at the space labs, they can get better amount of assistance. Also, industry academia will be present, so that it will actually help both of the same with reference to the further research and development, and at the end of the day, better collaboration with NASA and other space agencies also can be made possible. Now we'll be moving on to the last one. Guys, just like our airport security, our ports also will be getting a security overhaul. So this is where our Bureau of Port Security comes to picture. This will be a statutory body under the Merchant Shipping Act, the main nodal Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways. Do not assume it to be under the Home Ministry, guys. Also, with reference to the main approach of this organization, this will be based on a risk-based approach, based on a particular port, a major port or minor port in the country, based on the risk parameters, the cyber security and the location and the huge trade volumes. We will be having such Bureau of Port Security at such occasions. Here, IPS officer of level 15 grade pay will be heading the same, and between this 1-year transition, the General Director of Shipping will be, as of now, for a temporary basis, will be surveilling the same. Now, the key function here will be having to design the various regulatory aspects of standards for such security installations, intelligence exchange with various operations and the various agencies in the country, and also will be mainly be looking at the cyber security aspect. Recently, as you also have seen in the past 1 month, Center has designated the CISF as a recognized security organization, which will be taking up the major operations of the bureau here. And here they will be undertaking various security assessments, tests, and will be devising the security plans as such ports. Mainly here a very interesting parameter is that private sector in a PPP model will be also be brought in, because private security agencies also will be trained by the CISF with reference to various timely analysis, collection of information of data, and cyber security. Everything will be taken care of mainly in the era of IT and digital threats at our major ports and minor ports. So this was all for today. I thank you all for being a very patient audience. Please do attempt the quiz which is following up. Till we meet again, thank you, all the best and best of luck.